Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Hello, travelers. I am Oscar the Squid, and today we shall be starting the first episode in the great series for the Hollow Earth. This series being the mighty documentaries of the Hollow Earth. We'll start off simple for the first episode and start with a character you all know very well, or so you think, and that is the mighty Dagon. In this episode, we would be covering all of his forms, all of his different abilities, his background, his lore, his information, and most importantly, his relationships with other characters. Like if he's neutral with them, if he hates them, stuff like that. Because we haven't really been clear with relationships with other characters. So this documentary should help out a lot. Anyways, enjoy the documentary. We'll start off by listing Dagon's first form, his pre-evolved state. This was when Dagon's pre-evolved state. I'm sorry if I said Godzilla on accident. That would be probably the next episode. Now, this is Dagon's pre-evolved state. In this state, he is physically weaker, unable to properly kill his foes, and mainly relied on his atomic breath, which was also weaker than it is now, in order to kill or defeat or humble his opponents. In our universe, the strength of the laser beam is determined by the legs. Dagon's old atomic ray didn't really reach that far, for that matter. Which means he was very, 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 very weak compared to most other characters. That all changed when he became Draconis. We shall not cover Draconis or show him in this episode because he's his own separate entity. But to sum it up, he is a parasite that took over Dagon and transformed him into a malnourished but also very strong version of himself, hell-bent on killing everything. After gaining enough power by absorbing parts of his kills, Dagon thenforth broke out of his radioactive prison and evolved, becoming a lot more bigger than his previous form. This is the Dagon we know today, compared to the Dagon we used to know. Height-wise, they are about a couple inches taller than each other. Might I mind you, he is right up to his chest, the old one. Dagon, in his new evolved form, is twice as stronger than his previous state, due to him having more abilities, the blessing of becoming a god, and the literal definition of overkill. Because of this, it is now harder to kill Dagon in this new state, especially with his supercharged form. Now being effectively double his height, Dagon in this new form is practically unbeatable. Especially in his supercharged state, as I mentioned earlier, which in his supercharged state, he glows a hyper-cold blue, similar to that of ice. This would be Dagon's supercharged state. His thermonuclear state is unable to be reached at his moment due to his lack of full potential, which means he could become even more powerful than this. Although, amongst all the deities of both me and my friend's canon, he places in 8th place. Despite being one of the more powerful gods, he's not the strongest, as Mario A, Draconis, well, not Draconis, Drathulu, the Great Elder One, and Void Ghidorah all outclass him in strength. Even his clone, Crystal Dagon, which we'll cover in another episode, is also more powerful than normal Dagon. But in his supercharged state, he becomes a little bit weaker than Mario A. Not close enough to defeat him, but close enough to where he classifies as one of the same in his supercharged state. In his thermonuclear state, if he ever reaches it, he would surpass Mario A, but only temporarily due to the effects of radiation leveling out and shrinking at a rapid rate. This is also a reason why he is not able to keep his supercharged state forever. He only is able to reach this state during desperate times, and his thermonuclear form is only reached when he is at critical mass and is having very strong emotions, which would usually be caused by the death of a loved one. But he would have to be in a supercharged state at max potential, basically full energy, if he is even going to wish to accomplish this thermonuclear feat, making it nearly impossible unless actively boosted by the Great Elder. If it wasn't for the fact that his father was the Great Elder, where he would actively boost Dagon's power every once in a while, he would have never been able to reach his supercharged state, let alone his thermonuclear. And due to the sheer limited research of the thermonuclear state, we are unable to show you that form. But I assure you, we do not have that form. So yes, this is the most powerful version of Dagon currently that he is able to reach. Which means this state is almost indestructible. And because of this, he is ranked in this state right below Mario A, which would be 5th place. But if he does not have this charge up, but instead in his normal state, he would reach, well, 8th place, which is unfortunate. I would have wished him to be more powerful, but compared to the feats that the other characters showed, he is by far the most lackluster, regardless of his screen time. The only reason why he got to 8th place was because he was able to defeat Draconis alone. But even that, he was in his supercharged state, so we are uncertain if he was able to beat him if he was in his normal state. And because of that, 8th place seems worthy in the power scale. Now, to cover Dagon's abilities and, of course, powers as a deity. Dagon is known as the master of nature and creator of life. He has given birth to everything that is alive in the hollow earth that is not a sentient creature. But in fact, he can give sentience to his creations, which is why all the dinosaurs have intelligence, but still have primordial instincts to hunt, kill, and fight, which is why every once in a while there are characters that are willing to beat each other's asses every once in a while. This is much different than what Mario A does, which is essentially either steal characters from other realities, like he did with Gummigoo, or just have characters from his original reality that already achieved sentience, or that he has created with sentience, like Bowser A and Yoshi. If you don't understand, go check out my friend Ants Animations. Anyways, Dagon's powers include an atomic ray, a supercharged atomic ray, a nuclear pulse, a supercharged explosion, a thermonuclear pulse, and a thermonuclear explosion. Those are his special abilities. For normal abilities, he could scratch, claw, bite, stab, stomp, and slap you with his tail. If you get on his back, he will lay on his back or slam you against a wall whilst you're holding onto his back, giving him the ability to stab you with his piercingly sharp dorsal plates. Dagon is the 8th strongest being in the entire canon. Not only that, but he also has abilities to match. Such a incomprehensible feat, which is surviving a beating from a character that took a shot from a gun that produces black holes. If you watched the Apocalypse series, you would understand the absolute shittery this guy pulls. But besides that, Dagon's abilities also follow suit with other deities like Mario A. The ability to fly, teleportation, reviving the dead, accessing the code, but only if they have to, and it's usually just for quicker transportation, or to change their colors slightly. That's really it. He also has the ability of traveling through time if he needs to, and freezing time if he needs to. Both of these could potentially be done by Mario A alone. He's able to create things out of nothing and destroy energy and mass, which, if you understand the laws of energy and math, that should be that should be impossible. Yet Dagon does it. Because he is him and defies the laws of physics every time. He could also do the 1980s drop kick that was featured in one of the films. So if you think about it, he could also defy the laws of gravity. And physics for that matter. Like, what the fuck? Oh my... Now, I'm sorry for that awkward cut. I accidentally stabbed myself with Dagon spikes. But don't worry, it didn't bleed or anything. It's just a bruise, I guess. Anyways, now it is time for Dagon's relationships with the other characters. This is the part I've been dreading because it is probably the longest and most complicated part. Actually, scratch that, we need to cover the lore first. Now, Dagon was born through the Great Elder One. The Great Elder One is also known as Rathaluk. After birth, Dagon had 2 other siblings, one of which was killed alongside his mother. The only one who survived was Dagotilus, which was a runt. He was malnourished and had longer arms than normal. which meant he was a fast runner, but not a good hitter, whilst Dagon was more or less a living tank. At the time, of course. Over time, he gotten weaker and less capable of using his abilities due to the sheer power creep of literally everything else, until he evolved, becoming now nearly untouchable unless if it's another deity. The power scaling will definitely change eventually with the addition of new characters, but Dagon will always stay in 8th. Or 7th, or 5th, depending on his form. 5th is right behind Mario A on the chart, if you could remember that. Anyways, Dagon has faced many foes. He has fought Mechagodzilla, King Ghidorah, twice, the Great Elder just out of sheer defiance for his father. Rathaluk gave him a Drathulu gave him a heavy beating, but he came out barely alive. Void Ghidorah gave him a scare. Crystal Dagon was a nuisance. Destroya was literally the manifestation of crustacean Satan, which is a sentence I never thought I had to say. And Biolante, basically he had to fight a plant version of his sister. And others would probably be Titanosaurus, Anguirus, Rexy because of her bad parenting, Slasher and Buckshot because they're defiant half the time, Arctic Claw because he's a loner, and Dagon feels like loners become emo, and he doesn't really like emo half the time. And he fought Skeleton, the skeleton T-Rex, from that Battle Royale video that happened all that while ago that I had to delete for reasons I will not explain. But don't worry, I'm making another because I got all my Christmas presents, which means I am able to properly make a Battle Royale video. I just want to start the progress on the documentary series before I do such a thing. Now, Dagon has 2 children, Godzilla and Phoenix. Phoenix is adopted after the Great War, after finding out that his father and mother were killed thanks to Ghidorah. And Godzilla is Dagon's biological kid, after he mated with an unknown Gojira that soon died thanks to Ghidorah. Nobody knows who the mother was, not even Dagon remembers, due to how long it has been. Godzilla doesn't even know if he had a mother, and doesn't really believe it anymore. The only one who properly remembers her existence is Dagon, Rathaluk, and Drathulu, due to them seeing her, but never really getting to know her enough to remember her for a long time, especially after her untimely demise. Literally, after the birth of Godzilla and the nearby adoption of Phoenix, she literally got massacred and died instantaneously, which is very underwhelming. Now it is time for relationships. Dagon is very on great terms with his 2 children, Phoenix and Godzilla. He is on meh terms, like neutral terms, with most of the main cast, that being Tom, Patchy, Pyro, Ghost, Slasher, Buckshot, Melon, Rexy, and on good relationships with Old Man Barry, Anguirus, Titanosaurus, Gigan. Did I already mention Junior? I'm pretty sure I mentioned Junior. If not, then that would be my mention. He's also on good relationships with Arctic Claw, Myaprix, which is the manifestation of death in our reality, Crystal Dagon. After their squabble, they became brothers after they realized their origins. And the final relationship that we have before just saying that all the others are either neutral or hate is between Dagon and his father and grandfather, that being Drathulu and Rathaluk, also known as the Great Elder. Those would be the only other people Dagon will actively seek out to get along with Mothra, but Mothra is in rebirthing stage and does not really come out during this phase. So Mothra does not count until she is awake, basically, is what I'm saying. Oh, and he's also on good terms with Shimo, which is an ice gecko, I guess. You can call her that. But those are the only people he is on good terms with. For neutral terms, it is the entire main cast, besides the ones I have mentioned, on good terms with him, of course. And for bad terms, literally almost everyone he fought. That being Destroya, Ghidorah, Mecha King Ghidorah, Mecha Godzilla, Mecha Dagon, Kiryu, because they tried to do 3 attempts. Funnily enough, Kiryu was made from the dead bones of Dagon's mate, which really hit Dagon in the gut there and made him want to, just give up on fighting that thing until Godzilla came in and beat its ass because he didn't know it was his mother's skeleton in there. So, yeah. He doesn't like Kong because he stole one of his dorsal plates for his stupid acts. Who else? Oh yeah, Tiamat, Skila. The Skull Crawlers are a neutral term. As long as they leave him alone, he'll leave them alone, type of thing. And most of the other Titans are neutral or aggressive terms. Well, not good terms, I guess you can call them. But that's really it for Dagon's documentary. I hope you enjoyed, and that's all the information we can give on Dagon, updated to perfection at the moment. Goodbye. Swoosh!